everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today I'm very excited because I'm going to talk to a person whom I have learned a lot in terms of the GCC real estate. Because when I first started, exploring this space, there's a lot of noise out there. There were a lot of either the people who really hated Dubai for its, previous factors, or there were people who were really upbeat about the future of Dubai and the real estate. But I was not able to find any voice which was talking about a lot of sanity, the balanced approach. That there are certain things which are challenging, and there are certain things which are not challenging, but they are the opportunities which we need to look at. And we will also need to look at the risk associated with it. So then I was lucky and I found Mr. 𝐶𝐨𝐵𝐿 through LinkedIn, and then I approached him, and he was kind enough to give me some time, and we had a lovely Google Meet session. And then I recently went to Dubai, and then he was kind enough to take some time off, and then we sat over there and we talked about a few things, and it was a very, very insightful session. So I would like to have the same session which we had got in Dubai right now with other people, so the other people can also benefit, because I'm sure a lot of people are struggling in terms of understanding what Dubai is currently passing through, and what is the future like, and after the COVID, what happened in Dubai, and I'm sure there are a million questions out there. So thank you, 𝐶𝐨𝐵𝐿, for joining us to this session. And if you can introduce yourself, then we can kick off the session formally.
Sure. Thank you, Mohsen. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite topics, Dubai real estate, with you. And just by way of introduction, my name is 𝐸𝐻𝐶𝐿. I have been living in the Middle East and Dubai primarily since 2008. So I've had a chance to witness and experience various cycles that we've had over the course of the last 17 years, give or take. And my background is both as a real estate asset manager, but not an asset manager in the sense that seems to be applied more over in this part of the world. That's much more strategic asset management, looking at portfolio optimization, as well as understanding the economics of various projects and things that different companies are looking to do. At the same time, I have a deep development experience, including delivering more than $10 billion worth of real estate over the course of my career here in the Middle East. And I look at the market, and I look at trends, and I look at what people are talking about in a slightly different way. And that is one that is more grounded in fundamental urban economics. So I try to filter through a lot of the noise and make sense of what is going on, and then use the platform I have on LinkedIn to talk about that. And before we get started, I want to mention one thing. I am very optimistic about the long-term growth opportunities and long-term status of Dubai as a global market. What is a very frequent criticism of anybody that wants to talk about Dubai in an open forum is that if you want to try to cut through some of the noise, then it means you're negative about it. That's not true at all. It is important that we talk about facts, we talk about realities on the ground, and we talk about what that means. But before we even get started, I just wanted to reiterate that we're going to have a nice open conversation about things that we cover online, in my writings, and the things that we're seeing in this marketplace. And but from the very beginning, I want to say that I'm long-term positive on the future of Dubai as a city, as the UAE as a place to live, and wanted to just make sure we got that taken care of at the very beginning.
That's great, and thank you so much for clarifying that, because I think this is very, very critical. Because as I said that when I started looking into the real estate, I was finding two things: either people were very, very negative about Dubai, and or the people were very positive about Dubai. But the thing is, as everything in this world, we are not angels, right? The world is not
No.
full of angels, right? So we are humans. So we are half angels and we are a little bit devil. So we are in between. And this is the war which we go through, or which is the fight which we go through on a daily basis to make ourselves a better person. So same goes to Dubai. That Dubai has got its challenges, Dubai has got its
It does.
opportunities. Yeah, and as long as you understand the both of the things, then you can navigate through it, and that's the beauty of long-term investment, because this is
Correct.
what we call passion. This is what we call, oh, I really enjoy doing it, and this is what you grow with it, and it becomes part of your life. If it would have been in other way, that I invest some money and I need to multiply it by 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, then probably the world would have been a very different place as compared to what we have got right now. So
Of
yeah, I
course.
think this is a very, very important point which we need to clarify, that we just trying to understand where we stand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dubai, you have to look back, and we have to actually go back in terms of not just the performance that we've had over the past several years, which has been exceedingly high on a global basis,
Yeah.
but you also have to go back to 2008 when I first arrived here. And when I first arrived here, there was a general sort of sentiment that the global financial crisis really wasn't going to impact Dubai. Well, that turned
Oh.
out to not be the case. And if you look back to statements that were made by various people at the time, there was a thinking that it was going to be immune. There's always this strange little bit of the press wanting to pile up when they see and sense that somebody who is saying that they're going to be able to do something great and ultimately finds challenges along the way to kind of like pile on. And that was no exception. And the press was unfairly portraying Dubai as a place, as well as the overall circumstances. And this is going back to 2008. Now, we came out of 2008 in many ways, after a number of years, in a much stronger position. We abandoned a number of different concepts and ideas that previously would have been against basic economic fundamentals. So you can say, well, it still is very much a build it, they will come kind of a model, but what happened is it caused the city and the ecosystem here to catch its breath and allow for certain things to happen organically. And that organic growth what has really helped this place become a much more compelling destination for people to live. The quality of life has improved. We have art, we have culture, we have music, we have incredible education. It's still very safe. The roads and infrastructure are improving and getting better. I'll get to that in a second, because when we talk about the population, that is a place where we're starting to see some strain. But over the course of the last 17 years, there have been an unbelievable amount of positive advancements in the city, in the country, and it's a big reason why it's on top of everybody's list. Now, when you're the top dog, when you're the number one performer, it causes a lot of people to want to throw stones. Sometimes those stones are merited. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're rooted out of jealousy. Other times they're like, oh, I need to jump on the bandwagon of the top dog, and I got to continue to hype it up. So what we're trying to get a sense of is what is really happening on the ground, what is hype, what is noise, what are some of the real issues that we're facing, and where are we still seeing great strengths. It's important that if you did a simple SWOT analysis of Dubai, you would start with strengths. You would talk about the transportation infrastructure. You would talk about the aviation sector. You would talk about its cultural legacy of being an open place that is extremely welcoming to any kind of nationality, ethnicity, race, religion, creed, whatever. And these are things that have really helped establish the way that Dubai and the UAE are operating today. That is in contrast with some other countries in the Gulf, where they don't necessarily have that legacy. So that's why you have to be very careful that when you look at Dubai and what has been successful in Dubai, and to a lesser extent Abu Dhabi and the other Emirates, you can't just simply copy paste and think, oh, that's going to work for me wherever I am. And so when we want to have these kinds of discussions, it's important that we remember there's some great things that are happening here, but there's also certain threats. You know, there's opportunities and there's certain weaknesses. You know, we need to be able to figure out what is really kind of happening now, because we are at a really curious intersection. If we had had this conversation a year and a half ago, it would have been, wow, everybody jump on board as fast as possible because the market is really moving and accelerating fast, and we're not really seeing any major kind of like threats lurking in the background. But now we kind of are. And so it's important that we kind of articulate what those might be and still be able to look at the value in the long term, because this is what really it's all about, not just a short-term gain.
Okay, I will add one thing.
Please.
There was a investor who's been investing in Dubai before 2008. So, you know, a very seasoned Dubai investor. And when I met him, I think a year ago, last year, then I was asking him that, you know, how you seeing the market is going really, really fast and going upwards. And so when you think it will going to hit the ceiling and when it's going to go down? And he said, who cares? I said, what do you mean by who cares? I mean, you have invested the money, right? So you have got still some properties which you invested and stuff like that. Who says, listen, I've been here for last, you know, X number of years, and I've seen those downturns. So one thing I'm very confident about, if anything happens, it will again bounce back. So this confidence of this investor was the first thing which, you know, realized me, which made me realize that, you know, that people need to look at the long-term horizon. People need to understand. People need to look at that. How did Dubai start off? What Dubai is currently passing through, and where Dubai will gonna be in 5 to 10 years time. This is not normal. This is absolutely abnormal. And Singapore did it, but in number of years. Hong Kong did it, number of years, right? But we do not have got, you know, a place which is doing it so quickly, trying to learn from east and west and north and south all together in this era where the knowledge is everywhere. So
it's really remarkable what the city and the country has been able to do in an extremely short period of time. And it is impossible to not be impressed by that level of success. And what people have seen is they're thinking, oh, there is a certain kind of formula to that, without looking at some of the deeper actual structural considerations and circumstances that have helped benefit this place, to thinking that they can kind of simply copy paste. And so the growth that we've had here, and when you think that, you know, we just reached a new threshold in terms of population, and I definitely want to hold on to population as a topic, but, you know, we've doubled the population in 15 years from 2 million to 4 million. And that's pretty remarkable. And to be able to actually accommodate that population growth is also remarkable. It's not that anything about it is all 100% perfect. We have issues regarding traffic. We have issues regarding affordability. And, you know, those are very important topics from a real estate point of view. But there is a long-term story. And a lot of people and this is a lesson that I learned a long time ago, is that if you sit and wait to try to beat the market, you will have just lost your opportunity. And I think that what your seasoned investor is wisely saying is, if you have the ability to make the investment and you're convinced in what you are buying, you're not just buying for buying's sake. There still is a herd mentality that needs to be considered when you do invest in a place like Dubai. That you really don't have the right time or the wrong time to do it if you're really wanting to make that level of commitment. And so that's a key takeaway to me is, one, it's impressive that you have somebody that's been doing it for so long, but two, also saying it doesn't matter because, and really it doesn't. If you have a belief in the long-term story here, and you want to create a legacy that would go beyond just you, maybe into your kids, maybe even their kids, I mean, then by all means, it's really one of the best opportunities in the world in terms of the amount of stability, the regulatory conditions that are there, the variety of different products, and so I get that. But you know, I think that what a lot of people are more interested in is, you know, and I mentioned this, is this intersection. We have some very competing forces that are proving to be a big challenge in the market. One is the double the size of the speculative market versus the existing market. So more than 2/3 of the market in terms of transactions, in terms of sales, is off plan. And that's not sustainable. That's a problem. Because it is placing a bet that the market is going to continue performing the way that the market was previously performing, but not necessarily because of the quality of the asset, the underlying asset that you're looking to buy. So where you get a sense of that imbalance happening is a one-bedroom off-plan unit is more expensive than a one-bedroom existing unit. And that's not logical, and that's not following kind of basic economic fundamental principles, because it's saying that an asset that's yet to be built that actually has value that we have yet to recognize is worth more than the one that's existing. That's weird. So that's a little bit of a problem. And history has shown us that when markets become overly speculative, and you can pinpoint different locations, cities, places around the world, different times, that it creates a certain tension. Now, tension here means that the market might stabilize. We might see the market decline slightly. Do I believe that it's going to be a significant pronounced drop or depression or recession like we saw previous? I'm not going to speculate about that, but it means that we kind of have to have our eyes open to look and see what it is that's happening here on the ground and what impact that might have on the long term.
Right. Stephen, I've got one question over here.
Please.
Right. So we are saying that the off-plan market is more expensive than the existing market, right?
It is.
So
it's not that I'm saying.
No, you're not saying. Yeah, that's a fact. Okay, sorry. That's a fact that if you go out and look for it, you will find that. And this is what you find very strange. And this is, we need to dig in order to understand why it is happening and what ripple effect it's going to do to the rest of the industry. Okay, the question is, the money which we are talking about, which is coming for off-plan, coming maybe due to the wars, maybe because it's a FOMO, maybe whatever people are passing through currently, they would like to, safeguard their money in Dubai. So can the investors...
That's correct. Look, they're doing it. They're doing it as a hedge. Without a doubt, it's a hedge.
Yeah.
But it's a form of extended leverage that people don't want to understand or appreciate, that it's a form of extended leverage. You are buying a contract, a forward-looking contract for a piece of real estate, and you're giving the developer your monies on different milestone periods, not necessarily like a full-blown, loan and mortgage that you would need to get bank approval for, but you're letting that developer in essence take money from you for you to be able to get the promise of an asset in the future.
And without checking your credit history. And they're not checking your credit history, and you can book any property over there. So you do not know whether I'm able to give the installment of this property after 1 year or 2 years. So sorry, correct. I just added that this is again such a big leverage.
We forget our history so quickly. So in 2018 and 2019, the market was underperforming here, and there were certain safeguards and guardrails that were put in place and incentives that were put in place to try to get the market back on track. Because of a lot of other global circumstances, and then also the impact of COVID, a lot of people said, oh, this is an interesting place where I can invest. I can buy a property without the credit check. I can do it on a long-term extended payment plan, and when it's done, I can either choose to refinance and cash out, or I can go ahead and lease it to someone else on the market. And it's an incredibly compelling model, and it's worked. I'm not saying, it's good, bad, or anything. I'm only saying it has been a very successful model, but that model can't just keep on going. And it's not that it's going to necessarily stop or grind to a halt, but it more than likely will start to slow down. And there's two reasons for that. One is that there's only a finite number of units that can actually be built, first of all. Second of all, is there needs to be people who are going to ultimately use those units. And so we're at a very high multiple if you look at the supply coming. And it's not supply in the hottest areas. It's just talking about supply in kind of a more universal context of the city. There is going to be a lot of supply globally within Dubai, over the course of the next 2 years. And will that have an impact in certain neighborhoods? Yes, it will, absolutely. And it will drive values down. We're already starting to see it in some places. Is that meaning we have a supply problem? It's not meaning we have a supply problem, but we have a situation that requires us to look at supply slightly differently than we would in previous years. We've made buying real estate off plan very accessible to many people on a global basis, and that's great. But at a certain point, the speculative nature of those investments, if there are certain shifts in a economy, and that can come from inside or outside, then that speculative market is extremely fragile. And we don't want to see it go like this. We can have this. We can even have it go down a little bit like this. But we don't want it to collapse like we've seen before. And just in a survey of a lot of the people that I follow and am in contact with, there's an anxiety in the market. There is a certain nervousness. And the reason there's a certain nervousness is that the population is growing, and it's not growing in a way that people want to dig deep into what it means. So let me give you an example quickly on population. If 1,000 people are moving here a week, maybe only 25 to 30% of that population is economically productive, meaning that those are the ones that could potentially even afford to live in any of these units. The other 70% are going to be at a monthly salary level that does not count, right? So, okay. And then within that market, what are those people going to do and have for jobs? The job market has been flat for more than 18 months here. This is a problem. Just the other day on Dubai Eye, they were talking about this phenomenon. Salaries have been flat, job growth has been flat. So when you have that imbalance of a lot of energy and enthusiasm on a speculative side but you have certain fundamentals that are not catching up to it, then we have a problem. The problem is this. If this market was as healthy as we would want it to be, and as less risky as we would want it to be, then we would not just be hearing about the growth and the volume of real estate, both on an off-plan and a secondary market. We'd be hearing about all the positive job growth. We just don't hear it. And a lot of people are concerned that if it is remaining flat, but number of people is increasing, then we are creating a potential for things to become a little bit more stressed. Now, again, I'm not saying it's a collapse. It's stress. And at the moment, when everything's been going like this, for it to flatten out or for it to go down a little bit, that just adds that added level of anxiety in the market.
Great point. I think this relationship between the actual people who are going to pay for the rent or they're going to buy the properties which you are trying to sell because you would like to make money at that particular time, that match needs to be there in order to keep having that momentum for quite some time.
This is the issue of the herd mentality. So the herd mentality is buy to buy. The market is great. It's a great place to buy. Great, 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 good. But a very important question, who is going to occupy your unit? If it's you, great, congratulations. If you're buying this as an investment property for people to lease it and then pay you rent, who's going to lease it? And how are you going to actually find those people? And where are they going to come from and what jobs are they going to have to do it? Now, because this market has been in so much of a transient mode, a lot of people moving in and a lot of lack of clarity on that end, a lot of residents that have been here for a while that didn't buy are starting to buy. They're starting to purchase. But they're not making up the bulk of these transactions. It's still coming from places that are abroad, outside investors. Maybe they're doing it, able to get a golden visa or whatever, and that's great. But they're not necessarily like living here full time with a job or things of that nature. So this is where the herd mentality needs to look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, great. New building, cool, branded, whatever. Who's going to actually occupy it? How is someone going to help me with that?
Yeah.
And, I have talked to investors who have bought, I was talking to a guy a couple weeks ago, and he's like, oh yeah, I just bought 10 units. And I said, oh wow, cool. He was trying to brag about it. And I said, and who's going to lease those units from you? Oh, well, what do you mean? There's a problem in the leasing market? I'm like, you went and bought them without thinking about that? And then he said, well, it's okay. I'll probably flip it a couple months before the construction is finished. But that's not, that's, if he makes his money back or not let's see.
Yeah, as you said, fundamentals. So if you're going to have a transaction, end of the day, you should know whom you're going to have that transaction with. So
the end user.
Know your
it's
customer. Know your customer, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a job person, whoever you are. If you're doing any investment, it makes you a businessman. And if it's a businessman, the fundamental part is know your customer. Know your customer. So right now, without knowing your customer, entering into Dubai market, I think would be a little challenging. And if you don't have the answers right now, then I don't think that you're going to have the answers later on as well. So,
when we look at the fundamentals, the fact that there is positive population growth is good, but there have been more people that have been leaving because it has impacted affordability. This is the other tension that happens when you're in the middle of this sort of like circular logic of a heavily speculative market. It has caused other things to become more expensive, and at the same time, for people that are existing residents, because we're pegged to the dollar, the virtue of the dollar decreasing in value has made things more expensive for existing residents. So that has decreased our purchasing power internally, but externally it's improved it. but they're not playing the same game that residents are playing, where they're wanting to be able to find a place that could be their long-term home. So it's a strange set of circumstances. What I think is important is when you had at the beginning of the summer the Fitch report came out and said the Dubai market should expect something around a 15% correction. There is a lot of logic to that. Some of it was because of supply. More of it that was contained within the report that a lot of people didn't read beyond the summary page had to do with the speculative nature and the risk associated with a market that's heavily invested in speculative on the speculative side. And so I think that more than likely we will be in for some kind of correction similar to what Fitch was saying. Maybe not by the end of this year, but probably into early next year, unless we're able to respond to some of those other fundamentals in a positive way, like I mentioned. So what that means is if all of a sudden we start seeing a very important uptick in job growth, then great. Then all of a sudden you can say, Fitch, don't think you're going to be on the mark there. All of a sudden we're starting to hear that salaries are increasing greater than cost of living or inflation. Great. Then okay, Fitch, then maybe that correction isn't going to be so severe, but we're not hearing those things. If we were hearing those things now, that would really give us confidence that these people are just being negative for being negative's sake. But they're smart people that made these predictions. And you have to remember that report is not necessarily for just people like us to want to have a conversation about the market. That report is for banks and insurers and other invested people who are wanting to get a sense of the overall risk profile that is happening here. And so it's a little bit specialized. It gets distorted. But what they were saying is not, I think that what they are saying needs to be listened to, and we need to be having slightly different conversations, not about whether they're right or wrong, but conversations about what can we do to make them, to improve this potential reality, and that's really not what happened, unfortunately. Instead it was, again, wanting to take people that were saying that they are concerned about the market and just labeling them as being negative, which is not the case. I think we're all very invested in the long-term growth of Dubai and the UAE. I do think that, if people are wanting to look in this part of the world to invest, that some of the market fundamentals currently present in a place like Abu Dhabi are even better than Dubai. It's much less speculative market.
And very
we don't
well
have to spend
controlled.
on the conversation to everything that just always happens here.
And it's a very well controlled market, and obviously they have got a lot of oil as well in order to support any ups and downs. So the confidence is obviously really, really high over there, and they're pretty new to it as well. So they are very cautious in terms of what exactly they want to do, because they do not want to replicate anything what Dubai is being doing, because end of the day it's one country, and these 7 states are trying to complement each other, which is, I think, a new thing. I mean, it wasn't there in 2008, it wasn't there in 2015 and 16, but now I'm seeing it all across wherever I go, either Fujairah, Vulcan, and everybody's talking the same language, and which is so great, because Dubai has created such a great, massive marketing engine that it cannot consume each and every person. It attracts. Whoever comes to Dubai then say, oh yeah, I thought that Dubai is like that, but let's go to Abu Dhabi, let's explore that as well. So I think which is good.
There's more than one market. It's great that we have the variety. It's great to have other places that people can look to explore. I think that the attention will still be focused on Dubai, but it's good to see that we have very distinct markets in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, to a lesser extent Sharjah and Ajman, that while they are connected, they're not so completely interlinked that if one starts to sneeze, the other one doesn't cough, right? So I was really impressed and surprised when I was looking at Abu Dhabi last week how they have avoided a lot of the heavy speculative nature in that market. And it's because they have slightly different rules. Now, it might not be as easy as people to invest in as it has been here. But, again, it's not just a question of who is my end user going to be if I want to make an investment in any one of these places. But another more fundamental question is, why do I want to do it? If it's just simply diversification, okay, fine. There's probably other things that you can do that are a little bit less risky. But if you want to move into a real estate market to have that kind of asset in your portfolio and take advantage of a long-term perspective, then okay, then that's interesting. But not everybody needs to be a real estate investor, and this is where that herd mentality has started to lose a little bit of its momentum. I mean, we're hearing it in the market that things are starting to slow down just a little bit, enough where people are catching it in the sense of, okay, we may have hit the peak and we might start seeing things slowing down a little bit. Let's see.
And I think it's good because every little bit of correction teaches you new lessons. And
exactly,
these lessons are the fundamental part which will help you go much further and much higher as well. So
absolutely.
It's like a pit stop.
Yeah. Well, when I think of how difficult of a place this was back in 2009, and how it came out of 2009, and then rode a very significant wave up until about 2014. It was phenomenal, and it actually changed the way that we were approaching development, because a lot of developers were thinking, I can just go ahead and do this and it's going to work. Well, we then started asking different questions as developers about how are we really integrating open space? What are the different things that are going to make sure that people are going to want to live here for a long period of time? What other amenities do we have? How are we engaging pedestrian-friendly activities? If you look at the maturation of a place like the Palm, for example, when the Palm first opened, all those various beach clubs and things that you see there now, that didn't exist. It took some time for the market to figure out, oh my gosh, we have an incredible asset here. We need to do something with it, and we need to do it in the right way that creates a certain amount of accessibility for a wide range of demographics and a wide range of tastes, in order for it to be successful. Now, you look at the Palm and say, this is an incredible success story. But 15 years ago, you were looking at it and thinking, I'm not so sure, because those things just didn't exist. And so with time and trial and error and better understanding your client, your customer, we can now look at it and say, you know what? They did do what they needed to do. It wasn't what they did out of the gate either. We can't always expect perfection or full 100% success the very first time we're trying to do something. It might take a little bit of catching your breath, being able to recalibrate and have a course correction in order to do something that builds better long-term value. And I'll give a great example, not just the Palm. When I was living over near Dubai Mall when I first moved to Dubai, there was a way that people could cut to get into the mall from the main street. They didn't actually have a walkway there. They had just some grass. But because the way that it was designed from before was not very convenient, people just cut through the grass. Well, sure enough, ultimately they decided to pave it over because people were making the decisions. They weren't going to change because they could see, I can get there, I can do this better, I can do this faster, this is what I want. And so that's the way that a market normally responds, is that you take what you can get, you learn from it, and you improve. And this, I think, if we are going to be in some sort of more stabilized position with a little bit more of this activity as opposed to, things like this or like this, that gives us a chance to be even better for when we do have a very great upswing opportunity in the next 5 years.
Stewart, final words
Sure.
with respect to the people who are listening to us. They're obviously
Yeah, I
very
appreciate that.
anxious about, that whether is it a good time to buy, whether they should hold, if they decide somehow because of their circumstances that they'll have to buy, uh, you know, what to do. So please, can you?
Look, I can't. It's difficult because everybody's personal situations are different.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were talking about from before, is if you think you're going to outsmart the market, you're not. If you're worried about timing, being able to somehow create a big windfall one way or the other, that's entirely up to you. If you have found an asset that is either existing and has a good location, a good history, then there's no reason to not go for it. If you are getting and forcing yourself to rationalize risk, and what I mean by that is you go to a developer and they're saying, I'm going to give you this payment plan, extend it over this, and there's not going to be service charges, and you're going to get a guaranteed return and all this. You are going to find yourself in a position where you're rationalizing that decision. You're like, well, okay, I get that developer might not be tier 1 or tier 2 even, but what they're offering, sounds great. So my word of caution to those that are out there that are wanting to force themselves into a rationalized decision as opposed to the fundamentals helping drive the decision is be very, very careful. It doesn't mean that situation can work out for somebody, but I think that in this market where we've seen a lot of people want to follow the leader and the herd mentality, that was really great a couple of years ago. I think now, as we're starting to find these little tension points, especially as it relates to jobs, and the job market being more competitive than it's ever been before, I think that it requires a certain amount of reassessment. And the other thing too is I don't think everybody needs to be a landlord. I don't think everybody needs to invest just for the sake of investing.
Yeah.
There's other ways that you can participate in this market, whether it's investing in REITs or even the prime developers like an EMAR or some of the other ones that are listed. There's ways that you can participate in a market without going through the trouble and the hassle of being an owner. And so if you want to create that level of diversity in your portfolio and you want to have some positive exposure on a market, then those are other places that you could look at. But again, I'm not an investment professional, and I'm just giving opinions. I have to disclaim all of this, and so it's about just doing your homework properly and doing your research. But as a person, I'm very optimistic about the future here. This has been a great place for me and my family. We are happy to call the UAE home, and hope that we're able to do that for the next 5 to 10 years. So that's what we're in for. Not just some sort of short-term time away from home.
It's a fascinating place. It's a melting pot.
It is a fascinating place.
You meet, amazing people all around. And people are willing to talk to you anyway. Just like yourself, the way we connected. I mean, I connect with a lot of people in Dubai randomly, and they just talk, and we have got relationships and stuff. So it's a very amazing place. It has got that pull, which you keep coming back to it. One last question.
Yes. Please.
Tourism.
Right.
Last year, 18.72 million people visited Dubai.
Yes.
By 2030, they are expecting that this number will gonna be 40 million. And it's a huge number. It's not a small one. So, buying some properties for short-term rentals or Airbnb rentals right now will it gonna be, a much safer bet, or is it not?
I mean, it's look, it's interesting because if you look at the trajectory of Airbnb and other markets that have also experienced very significant tourism growth over the course of the last 5 years, is those results have been mixed. Look, I think that when you have more product variety, the market takes care of itself. I'm not a big advocate of over-regulating a market to inhibit Airbnb. If that's what you are going to do, then I think that that's fantastic, and it's great that those opportunities and options are there. I don't think it really takes away from the hotel industry here or anything along those lines. I do think it becomes a more interesting option in some of the other markets around the UAE. And I think that what will happen is when you start to get tourists that are coming, you'll have tourists that are coming here constantly just because it's Dubai, right? But we are starting to see some amazing tourism options elsewhere in the country. When you look at what Abu Dhabi is doing with Disney, when you look at Ras Al Khaimah with the Wynn, when you look at the beach resorts in Fujairah, and then you now have the new connectivity of Etihad Rail that will allow people to go to all Emirates over the course of sort of like a 10-day deal. That's really, really interesting. So I think that the tourism opportunity is great. You have from a connectivity point of view the airport and the Emirates and the infrastructure that is there. So I just continue to see that to grow. It will be interesting to see what the tourism numbers were for this year relative to last year. I think that they're on track to beat it, but I could also see in 2026 maybe it stabilizes a little bit, just because you can't have every single year exceeding. It's incredibly difficult to sustain that. But maybe, I like Airbnb. I think that those are great opportunities for people to consider, and there are good companies here that can help you manage that portfolio of yours if that's something that you decide to do.
Yeah, partner is very critical in the Airbnb. I mean,
Absolutely.
very critical. It's a hell lot of a job. Every day you'll have to manage it, and you have to do a lot of bits and pieces. So yeah,
Exactly.
so when we were there last time with Shumail, the friend which
Yes.
I've got, so we went to a lot of companies. We had done a lot of interviews and discussions and stuff like that, and then we really realized that it's a great opportunity as far as you have got a wonderful partner. Because the partner is not good.
It's important that you are able to have that level of confidence, and that's
Yeah.
if you can't take the time that you took,
Yeah.
then find a different way to participate in the market that isn't going to be as stressful. You are investing time, energy, and effort. You are building those relationships.
Yeah.
You are not just wanting to be an investor that is abroad and saying, I'll go ahead and sign the thing on my phone and send the deposit, and then I'll figure out what to do with it later. You're actually wanting to do that. I am an advocate of people wanting to invest if they can invest, but if they're not, or they're wanting to do it just because of FOMO, then that's not probably the right move, or entry point in this market.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to see some maturation again in the market. If when I first came to Dubai, it was a teenager, and then a few years ago it was in its 20s, and now it's early 30s. Now it's growing up. It's becoming smarter. It's becoming a much more mature place, and there will be a catch-up period, certainly, of new regulations and new things that will be introduced to continue this as a great place for people to invest money in over the course of the next several years. And so, again, that's just another reason why I'm very bullish about the long-term opportunities here.
Thank you so much, Stuart.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Your background, I think, speaks a lot about, your wisdom and your intellect about the whole place. because you already
I
been,
appreciate
you
that.
know, since 2008, so you have seen the ups and downs, different people, you have seen those markets, so everything is just happening in front of you. So you don't have any, a one-sided view of the things, which is, so
No, I
good,
think it's
so
important to
great
have a
to,
balanced approach. It's important to have a
yeah,
balanced approach, and it's important to listen and do your own research.
yeah,
We have the luxury of being connected more than we ever were before, and while research here is still somewhat imperfect, uh, there are a lot of things that we can gather through uh, powers of deduction and inference that are going to be um, relatively accurate. Okay, good. You know, so just, if we remember to do our homework and apply a certain amount of rigor and not get worried that if we don't make that investment that we're somehow going to have lost out and it's going to be catastrophic, then okay, that's okay. It takes time. I know a lot of people who have been wanting to invest for a long time. They did or they didn't, but it's not as if you don't do it, you're going to somehow have lost forever. And I think that that's the point that your friend, the other investor friend, was making, in the sense of
yeah,
just, if you want to be in the market, come in the market, but plan for the long-term ride.
yeah. No investment is better than bad investment.
Agreed. That is definitely true.
And you only can find out when you start digging, and
Exactly.
and digging is not easy, because
No,
everybody has got their own agenda, everybody has got their own point
correct.
of view, so you cannot rely on one point of view. I think you need to have a holistic, good, bad, balanced everything, and then
Yep.
once you have got everything in front of you, then you're in a better place to make a decision. But with half cooked knowledge, it's not going to work. This is
No.
2000 and, 2025. It's not 1995. It's not
No.
1984. It's
No.
not 1970s. It's 2025.
No.
Things changes so quickly
It does. It does.
within seconds, and you need to understand the whole world, their geopolitics, their relationships.
Yep.
So cannot be, very small-sighted in order to look at things. But anyway, it's been a great pleasure listening to you. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
sharing,
Thank you
sharing
very
this
much, Mohsen. I
with them.
appreciate it. I'm
And
glad we were able to do this, and hope we get to do it again soon.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think we just started off because
That's right.
because I need to also talk about your approach in terms of empathy and real estate, because I've seen a couple
Sure.
of your podcasts before doing this, and it was like mesmerizing to listen to you, that you're not a
Thank
person
you. I
of
appreciate it.
walls and windows and doors and buildings. You're a person who's talking about emotions with with
Oh,
with,
yeah. Well,
with real estate.
I
So
enjoy it. I enjoy it. So
so
I'm glad we were able to do it. I hope we get to do one at the end of the year and see where things stand in terms of a wrap up in 2025, or where things are going to go in 2026. This market is changing quickly. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next several
yeah,
months.
I'm very, very excited about that. So thank you so much again,
Yep.
Steve.
Great.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
I'm
Mohsen.
just going to say,
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
yes.